This game made me nauseous. No, I'm not saying that because I hate the game. I mean, 7-year-old me literally got nauseous after playing it for too long. Made me miss my class Halloween party too. That's right, an obscure Winnie the Pooh game from the early 2000s based off a Pooh movie that people do not talk about literally made me sick. Okay, that's an eye-catching enough intro, on with the show. Licensed games have always had this bad reputation. For the 5 people who don't know, a licensed game is a game directly based on or adapting a movie or TV show that tends to be made more so to promote said thing rather than actually being a good game. This usually leads to a lot of them having this super cheap aura to them. Bad graphics, bad controls, and sometimes only a surface level understanding of the source material they're adapting. I'm sure we've all had a run-in with one of these types of games before, mostly because our parents would buy them as easy birthday or Christmas gifts when they couldn't think of something to get us that year, because we just so happened to like the thing the game's based on. I still think about how horribly controlled that stupid Finding Nemo game was. For a one-sentence review of that one, Superman 64 underwater. There are obviously exceptions to this rule. The common ones you'll see people point to are SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and Simpsons Hit and Run as some of the few genuinely good licensed games out there. But you also have that one game that you played the hell out of that no one knows exists but you. Maybe in my case, that would be, well, Piglet's Big Game.
When you get into a third camera, you just kind of tell...
Oh my god! That was scary.
Now, Piglet's Big Game is a Winnie the Pooh game, obviously, released on the GameCube, PS2, GBA, and PC in 2003. We'll be talking about the GameCube/PS2 version because that's the one I grew up with, and frankly, the other versions do not look interesting. This game is actually adapting a specific movie from the franchise, and not even a movie that's brought up much. Piglet's Big Movie, released in theaters in 2003 and made by Disney Toon Studio. And after rewatching the movie for this review, I gotta say that the film holds up way more than I thought it would. Not sure how much of that is blind nostalgic bias, since I did watch this movie constantly as a kid. I had it on DVD after all, but this movie really just feels cathartic to watch. The main plot is that Piglet feels left out and neglected due to his small size and his friends just unintentionally giving him the short end of the stick. So Piglet runs to the woods for some therapy, I guess, but this causes his friends to think he's missing. So they try to find him as 3 flashbacks of Piglet helping them out on previous adventures plays, all with the common result of them not acknowledging his contributions in said stories. This all culminates in an epic finale where Pooh is hanging for dear life to save Piglet's memory book that helped them along the way, and Piglet hops in to dramatically save them. With the overall takeaway of the film being that even little people can do big things. This movie hits all the emotional beats beautifully and could be its own review entirely. So why am I giving you a rundown of this movie's plot? To show you that this game's story has nothing to do with the movie. Okay, that's not entirely true. It does hold the same themes, that even if you're small, you can still do amazing things, but they decide to go with an, let's just say off-the-wall story. Piglet dreamwalks. I'm not kidding. So the game's story is that Piglet is walking on his merry way when he sees a creepy shadow demon thing called a...
Shadow!
Yeah, that. But it disappears when he tries to warn the others, leading him to have similar doubts of himself that he did in the movie. Then everyone falls asleep and he invades their dreams. Our main method of teleporting to said dreams is through this magical telescope thing. I would question how looking into a telescope suddenly gives you dream teleportation powers, but this is the Winnie the Pooh universe and it operates on child logic. This gives us 6 dreams to explore, 1 for each character. Now, one thing I always loved about this game was the massive variety in these dream worlds, and how well crafted they are to fit each character. The sweet-filled wonderland of Poohs, the chalk zone-looking kid drawing land of Roos, the Harry Potter-looking dream of Owls, Eeyore's dream that kinda looks like it'd make for a sick whodunit type mystery story. Seriously, look at this. Rabbit's dream that's really fucking boring compared to Tigger's. I know I'm going out of order here, but this is probably my favorite world in the game. It's a bit big and backtracky, but the variety of locations fitted to all 4 seasons, plus Tigger's stripes throughout the environment, make it the closest to how I'd imagine the 100-acre woods looking like. Not to mention, I low-key want to live in this treehouse. Note to self, add treehouse to reviewing forest. So each world follows a sort of similar pattern. The character who's dreaming this up has a problem, and Piglet, through a series of events and battles, helps them solve it. Yes, I said battles, because, well, this game has a fight system. It's not a very complex one, but it honestly doesn't need to be. How it works is that you approach the game's enemies, the Heffalumps and Woozles.
I challenge you to a duel.
Not like that. You get some distance on them when they notice you, and initiate the battle when the command comes up, leading you to have to press a list of buttons in a certain order for Piglet to perform what this game calls a brave face. Yeah, I wouldn't classify all of these as brave or even scary, but I do remember a couple of these scaring me and, well, making me dizzy. As a side note, this one's way too cool. It honestly should have been the final phase. Could have been the closest thing this game has to a Mega Evolution. Starting at the first world, Pooh's dream has you trying to find him some honey that is currently being guarded by bees outside Rabbit's house. And yes, Rabbit's house looks like food because he's Winnie the goddamn Pooh. During Piglet's quest, he runs into the first set of enemies, known as the Basic Heffalump and Basic Woozle. Yes, those are actually their official names. I wonder if they feel self-conscious about it. Hey, Basics, you want to talk about it? I'm sure being called a basic bitch your whole life has done a number on your self-esteem. Want to try out some of our forest berries? I'm sure you can find them in the trees all the time where you're from. Chica, chica! What do you mean that's not what's in their trees? Fine, maybe I'll just buy you whatever that would be. I'm sure it's cheaper in your world. What do I pay with? Chica! Cookies? Yep, in this game, you kick solid objects for cookies, and you use them as cash. Each room in a world will have an assortment of objects to kick, each containing 5 cookies. You'll know you get every cookie in the room when you hear Piglet go,
Yeah, it's like when it's essentially
Oh,
the
we
same thing
leveled
as if
up.
you're like,
aw, wholesome. These objects can range from pretty obvious to how the hell am I supposed to believe Piglet can kick that high? But they're all pretty easy here since this is the first level. I will warn you though, the walking speed of this game is not very fast, so you'll have the impulse to constantly use the kick as you walk, because your little kid brain makes you think that makes you move faster. Not speaking from experience or anything. Anyways, you use the cookies to purchase new brave faces, usually by Piglet watching some clone of himself perform the face for him. You think Piglet can build an army of them? Never mind. These new brave faces sort of serve as upgrades, as these enemies are gonna get tougher and you'll need to save up cookies to buy new ones each world. I should also mention that if an enemy catches you before you get your button combo down, Piglet freaks out and his movement changes a bit, usually by showing him more visibly scared. A neat bit of polish to give the player a sense of urgency. I really like it. If you get scared twice, Piglet is freaked out and starts making mad dashes. No joke, I researched speedruns of this game and found that the few speedrunners of this game actually put Piglet in this state for quicker movement. Literal danger strats. But if Piglet gets scared 3 times, he runs away scared and you just want to give him a hug. Or a heal. How do you heal in this game anyway?
Everything will be alright, Piglet. To overcome your fears,
You
you
get
must
a
believe
pep
in
talk.
yourself.
This is straight up the purest way of healing I've ever seen in a video game. We stand Piglet therapy in this forest. The rest of Pooh's dream is pretty basic though. Get rid of the bees, get the honey, bring old Winifred his honey back. On to Roo's dream. So we actually have to go through most of the world to get to Roo. Per Kanga's request, we need to find him, and he's at the end of this kindergarten art show looking stage in his playroom. I love how far it is from his actual house. Makes me wonder if Roo has some deep-seated desire to be independent from his mom. He spends a lot of the time sitting in her pouch. Surely he'd want some alone time. But back to the stage. Oh no, a gate.
I tricked
Hey
there, Piglet.
I tricked the Tigger.
Childhood.
Well, we're Tigger now. He seems like a fun character to play as. He moves faster, his bouncy could lead to some fun platforming. What are we doing with him?
He's the most
So, Tigger, I guess, is a fucking wimp.
Oh, stealth. Well, I guess being subversive is what Tiggers do best. Complicated opinions on stealth levels aside, it's not too hard. Just avoid the lights and hide in an obviously apparent hiding spot because these guys have literally no peripheral vision whatsoever. Seriously. The rest of the level consists of doing chores for Kanga and finding stuff to get Roo's ball down from a high spot in the playroom. Not before running into our next new enemy, the bee Heffalump. According to all known laws of aviation, the bee Heffalump moves faster than the basic one, but when you scare him, he moves back a circle. They also don't show up again for a long time. Trust me, this isn't the last time we'll talk about Pooh's bee Heffalump movie, but Roo's Dream does introduce a different element for the last one, a boss. Yes, this game has bosses too. And what's our first one gonna be?
You look at this door.
Halt! None shall pass.
Well, technically this is a pre-boss, but yeah. There's also these doors at a couple levels that will block the way and will only leave if you get that dream's most powerful braid face. Then it just goes down in one hit, or scare I guess. It's so weird to call these scares damage, to be honest. But the real boss for this is a new enemy variant. These vampire woozles are known as hide-and-seek woozles because I guess that's the less nightmare-inducing thing to call them. Though I gotta say, the game did genuinely have some frightening elements to it. We'll get into more as we go along, but I remember these guys being kinda creepy to me as a kid. Their gimmick is that they'll hide behind their cape as they walk towards you, and you gotta time your last button to hit when they're out, otherwise it won't work. A nice gimmick, though I find them to be a bit easier to deal with if you can figure out the timing. But yeah, beat 3 of them in Roo's man cave, I guess, and give the ball back from Swiper, the sneaky hide-and-seek woozle.
Nowhere.
Well, thank you,
Piglet the Vampire
You're
Slayer.
awfully brave to face those woozles.
Owl's Dream I just love the atmosphere for. I don't even know how to describe it. Right at the beginning you get this sort of Night Street thing going. Also Gopher is here. Forgot to mention he's in the game. I genuinely forget he exists in the entire Pooh franchise most of the time.
Sounds like you want my help. Sorry, nope, too big a project. I'm much too busy.
The main thing you do in the stream is locate Owl's memory book because he's getting some amnesia going. You go through a bunch of uniquely designed rooms that really take advantage of this being a dream. You do a bunch of puzzles, play some Fire Emblem, and also get to play as another character.
I vote at
Oh, hello, Piglet. What brings you here?
Here it comes.
I'm looking
this
for
part.
a chessboard.
One scare and he is dead.
Pooh's maximum speed is not so great.
Just like the irony of Tigger Self, we get a Pooh, holy shit, everything is trying to chase you part, where you run away from everything as Pooh to get to a switch. The main problem being that his movement is a lot slower and you do not want to get cornered. I don't have much to say on the actual story beyond that, just how amazing this level looks. Seriously, look at this visual eye candy. Eeyore's Dream does the night thing like Owl's, but has a more fitting approach to it for his character. It's a lot more glum, rainy, and miserable for the first part as Piglet tries to get the key into Eeyore's house. That's right, the key. Because Eeyore's dinky stick house has an underground section that's a huge-ass mansion guarded by heffalumps. Okay, they just happen to be right in the foyer, but the idea makes it funnier. I will say though, this room is at a very awkward, nauseating angle. But what you gotta do here is help bring the color back to this glum place. The colors are all throughout the mansion, and when Piglet finds one
Of the colors.
this freaking quote was rent-free in my head for years. It may not be iconic to most, but it is to me. Also, they use the same voice clip in 2 separate parts. The only thing of note here are 2 new enemies. The first one is known as the Mirror Woozle. This French-looking dude will turn your battle screen upside down and sideways, making you have to tilt your head constantly to get the buttons down. And he'll do this several times in the battle, and it gets disorienting really fast. Probably one of my least favorite enemies in the game. What doesn't help is around this point, the buttons needed to perform a braid face get a lot more complex. Now you gotta hit a button and a direction on the control stick, which gets really confusing when you also have to do this upside down. Kinda makes you dizzy if you know what I mean. The other new enemy is this level's boss, who you encounter via a trapdoor you get from lighting up the room with a candle you got from Roo and... oh, okay. I can't figure out where to fit this tangent in the script, so I might as well talk about it here. Throughout each dream, other characters will show up as a means for the plot, usually to give you an item or to help with a task, and will usually stay within a room. But after you complete said task, they disappear from the dream entirely, almost as if their purpose in the plot was complete, so they must vanish into the ether. I remember I used to find this element really creepy, but I guess because of the nature of dreams, some things just vanish when out of focus. But Roo is just kinda outside Eeyore's house in the rain, and he just gives you a candle and actually says he's gonna go home. So at least that makes sense, unlike Rabbit in Pooh's dream, who just vanishes from his own house. It's also very eerie after you complete a dream story and go back and do it because the whole dream is empty. Even the character who dreamt it isn't there, and you get like this silent void of nothing. Except for this extra thing you could do in certain rooms called Bravest of them all, where you just kind of chase down the enemies for bonus stuff, but I'm getting off topic. But anyways, the boss is this tuba playing heffalump, aptly called the Tuba Heffalump. What can I say? He knows his calling, because they walk towards you and blow their tuba, destroying the button combo you were working on. They're pretty easy if you're fast enough and are a non-issue most of the time. What I'm more interested in though is the atmosphere of this boss fight. perfectly dark, the right amount of scary, and the right amount of immersion to really keep you on your feet. That's a lot of this game, having surprisingly good atmosphere for what was a Winnie the Pooh game made to cash in on a movie that no one talks about nowadays. It especially excels in the horror department. Both Owl's and Eeyore's dreams have some genuinely scary moments, especially for the target audience. I certainly remember feeling chills in some of these battles as a 6 or 7-year-old. Also, given that this is a Winnie the Pooh game meant for a much younger audience, this is probably some kid's first video game, and oh boy, what an introduction to the medium. A game where a vampire steals little Roo's ball.
Honking all happens right now.
What the heck?
It's the Phantom of the Opera.
Rabbit's Dream is probably the weakest of these. Not to say it's bad or anything, it's just that the level design itself is kind of weak. You go from this cool looking mansion with a gloomy atmosphere to a cave and some forest. It's gonna feel like a step down no matter what. So what you gotta do is rescue Rabbit's carrots before the rain destroys them by getting this carrot extractor working. Oh well, Rabbit is stuck here. This shot of him stuck is way funnier than it has any right to be. Like he just accepted his fate while we do the level. What's also funnier is during this time, we literally pick up a shovel and talk to him, yet we can't use it to dig him out. It's used for something else. Forgot to mention, any item you pick up is basically single use for its specific purpose. So you can't say, use this shovel to whack the enemies, though that would be hilarious.
Piglet's had enough.
And you'll want to whack the enemies introduced here because...
It'd be a bit more balanced though if they only had one health.
Yeah. Like, what the heck?
Our robotic laugh is obnoxious, and they mock you every time you get it wrong.
This guy sucks. This is the jackpot, Heffalump. One bit of praise, he's creepy as hell and really fits the tone the game's got going for it on that front, even if he's an actual robot. What has mankind done? However, his gimmick is annoying. He has this slot machine that randomly generates the buttons and directions you need to press, but will hide what a few of them are, meaning that you have to basically keep guessing until you get it right. And let me tell you, it is common to guess every other button until you get the right one. And keep in mind, you gotta scare him before he approaches Piglet, so any missteps will add up. It's quite the difficulty spike from the previous enemies, let's just say. I don't hate him as much as the Muirwoozle, but these things are still obnoxious. The rest of Rabbit's Dream isn't too interesting beyond another Tigger stealth mission and this part where you gotta turn the extractor on with the most stupid specific time limit. Go a bit too slow and you ain't making the time. But yeah, you save the carrots before the foreshadowing rain, on with the show. Tigger's Dream, as I said before, is freaking awesome. Aesthetically, it's just a better version of Rabbit's. So the story is that Tigger has lost his stripes and... Oh god, censor him! I'm monetized now, jeez. But yeah, Tigger's lost his stripes and is all boohoo sad, so he hides up in his house that I still want to live in. So you gotta get them back. This involves a series of events that take you through the largest dream in the game, doing puzzles, another Pooh running away level, and a lot of backtracking. Hey, I didn't say the level was perfect. Eventually though, you find the stripes in this mansion and you have to catch them in a time limit. I neglected to mention the immense anxiety I got seeing this timer clock guy. It was this guy and those math tests you do in 2nd grade where you have to solve a bunch of math problems in 60 seconds that gave me a childhood fear of time limits overall. Just the amount of anxiety of seeing that clock tick down slowly makes an internal clock just constantly tick in your brain. The music didn't help either.
They are obnoxious to corner.
But at the end, we meet our final enemy. Well, I forgot to mention the road sweeper Heffalumps who just make it slightly hard to see the buttons, but they're so forgettable and not a real threat that this will be their only mention. The real boss of this level are the Sporty Woozles. They love tennis and will change up one button or direction as you're doing the Brave Face combos. Basically, the jackpot Heffalump with less annoying RNG. And that's all the dreams. And of course there's a final boss and well, let's just say that this game of all games, has a difficulty spike. And I'm not even talking about just the enemy, like a genuine difficulty spike in the gameplay. So the final level is during this storm in the 100-acre woods. All the friends you helped are trapped on different islands with an enemy approaching each of them. And Piglet's gotta save them all through an item on the ground that matches each character. And scare all the enemies dead before they reach said characters. Sounds simple enough. You get 2 sections of 3 characters to save, and it's not like you have to save all 6 of them at once. Heck, there's even this funny moment in the first room that's honestly the best part of the game.
Picture of you fleeing from monsters by flying.
By flying? How silly you are! Of course, flying! Right you are! I'm coming!
There's the thumbnail.
Seriously, I love how hilarious this is. What's funnier is that the hide-and-seek woozle chasing him will just be frozen in place. So if Piglet really wants an easy W, all he's gotta do is get his friends to keep talking as they escape. But nah, that'd be too easy. Let me talk about the difficult part. See, everything up to this point is pretty easy. Sure, some enemies are annoying, but they aren't the worst things to deal with. It's also pretty easy to not even take damage for most of the game. That all changes here. See, there's no checkpoints between sections, meaning that if you mess up in section 2 or even the final boss, you gotta do it all over again. I'm personally not a fan of when games do that. It kind of makes the difficulty feel artificial and tedious to make you replay stuff you already completed and you showed you can do. Sure, I can get just having to save the other characters in that section again, but literally everyone feels a bit overkill. Not helping is that Piglet can only get scared 3 times and there's no way of healing. And well, in the first section, when you gotta save Roo, we get the dramatic return of the bee heffalump. And this is where you realize he's actually one of the hardest enemies. You fight him on this narrow-as-hell island that's laid out in a way where it's hard to get any distance on him to do your combos on. And keep in mind, these guys move a lot faster than most enemies, so you'll be having to hit run several times just to get more distance. It's also easy to just take a hit from accidentally running into him. And in this gauntlet, any sort of health matters. I usually want to go for him first, mostly because of his speed and to get him out of the way. Also, in the second section, there's this glitch that sometimes happens where if you try to rescue Tigger first, Piglet falls through the stage and is stuck in this limbo where the only way out of it is to restart. But when playing through this for the first time, it can get really annoying when you don't know that's gonna pop up. This gauntlet is insane and surprisingly brutal for a game aimed at 6-year-olds. No, I'm not calling it Dark Souls, that's cheesy. But after you wear yourself out there, you make it to the final boss, the Brontosaurus from the opening cutscene. A nice clever wraparound from the beginning. This game's writing is surprisingly sharp at points, like having Rabbit's dream be about the incoming rain, but then only 2 levels later in the real world, the rain comes down. A clever bit of foreshadowing that is exemplified by the cutscenes you see of them falling asleep. Back on topic, I do like the clever bit of catharsis of Piglet seeing this guy at the beginning, no one else believing him, and then at the end having to save all their asses from that very thing. It's a similar theme to the movie it's based on actually, but that's a different review entirely. The fight itself is actually real easy by comparison, just scare it a few times and it goes down. Seeing this ending cutscene, especially after the hell of a gauntlet, is genuinely satisfying, especially if you're a 7-year-old kid who spent half a day playing the last few levels and this fight, seeing awkward angles, flashy brave faces, and enemies that can tilt the screen. Then you feel all satisfied, and then your body reacts to you seeing all of this along with sitting too close to the TV, and then the next day you're all nauseous and crap, and you can't go to school the next day, and your class was having a Halloween party. Then you feel guilty and wonder if what you did was worth it, but I'm not speaking from personal experience or anything. This game has problems, but I have a personal bias for it, so I say it's an underrated banger. See you next time!